Hello, I'm Sierra with Hope Learning Youth Webinar Series. Today we're doing a little bit different. We're interviewing some of our presentations for our Hope Spot Gala. So I'm here with Mr. ED Sherwood from the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce what organization you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Ed Sherwood. I'm Executive Director with the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. I've been working in Tampa Bay for the better part of 20 years. Started as a fisheries biologist actually with the state and got interested in protecting everything as it pertains to water quality, habitats, and the fish and wildlife that depend on all those resources. So it got me interested in the work I do.
Great. And what positive outcomes have you seen from the programs that you work with and the outreach that you do?
Yeah, so as one of 28 national estuary programs, we're designated by Congress as an estuary of national significance. And what we try to do is catalyze action for the benefit of protecting and restoring the Tampa Bay Estuary. One of the things we do is try to get everyday people involved with that. So we've encouraged things like vertical oyster gardens or bogs on people's backyards and docks that live on the bay, so that they could create habitat, oyster habitat, that will further help polish the water quality in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm. That's great, and I'm excited to hear about your presentation. We'll also be filming that. So thank you for doing this quick little interview with me. And yeah, have a great rest of the gala. It should be a fun event.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Sherwood, the Executive Director of the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. Ed Sherwood became TBEP's Executive Director in 2018 after serving as the program scientist since 2008. He directs TBEP's research, restoration, and public outreach initiatives and serves as the primary liaison between its many public and private partners. In his spare time, he enjoys boating on the bay and traveling with his wife and kids. Take it away, Ed.
Good evening. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the bay and the current condition of the bay. As you know, the Tampa Bay Estuary is the centerpiece of our region, so it's a really important facet of where we work, live, and play. And the bay's struggling a little bit right now, so I'm going to get into that and kind of focus on things that we can all do to help bring the bay back. So go ahead to the next slide. So my organization, I work for the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. We're one of 28 national estuary programs designated by Congress as estuaries of national significance. So we match both federal resources with local resources to catalyze action for the protection and restoration of our special place here in the Tampa Bay region. And as I mentioned, if this animation, oh, there we go. So the estuary itself is bordered by three main counties, Manatee, Hillsborough, and Pinellas, as well as distant parts of the watershed. They stretch up into Pasco, Polk, and Sarasota County. As you all know, our region is expanding. We're getting about, last estimate I heard is about 1,500 people moving to the state of Florida every day. So our overall watershed is growing. We now have 3.1 million people living within that little green area that borders the Tampa Bay Estuary. And we're expected to approach nearly 6 to 7 million by mid-century. So that's a significant amount of people moving into the region. A lot of that takes up a lot of the natural spaces, and we have to be cognizant of that as we move forward, because we are seeing some impact. So if you go on to the next slide. This is basically what we've been using as sort of a sentinel indicator for the health of Tampa Bay. It's seagrass coverage, those underwater grasses that proliferate on the shallow bay flats. And we've had some really great success in the Tampa Bay region of restoring those seagrasses. We actually peaked in about 2016, but since that time, we've seen some losses. So that is a very troubling thing. We're now below that bright red line. That's where we want to be in terms of sustaining seagrasses in the Tampa Bay Estuary. And you can see where it's been coming and going. And most of the losses of late, and from about 2016 to 2020, have been in the upper bay. So basically, Old Tampa Bay, the upper left-hand lobe, and Hillsborough Bay over by the city of Tampa. you could go on to the next slide. And this is just a static image. And as I mentioned, it's a key indicator of the bay's health. It's the canary in the coal mine. So all the things that Paige just mentioned, all those fish and wildlife resources that are important to us as both the recreational and commercial species, as well as the manatees we love to view out on the seagrass flats, those are all highly dependent on the amount of seagrass coverage we have in Tampa Bay. So we need to get it back. We need to get the bay back on track. And I'll if you go to the next slide, kind of talk about the three focal areas that we have now in Tampa Bay that we know we have some issues with. So the first one is, like I said, some issues in Old Tampa Bay where we have some persistent harmful algal blooms. It's called pyrididium. It occurs there every summer, and we think that's part of the problem why we're losing seagrasses in particular in that bay segment. Second thing, as I mentioned, with that increasing population, we're starting to lose the opportunities for a lot of the natural spaces that we have in the watershed to help filter out a lot of the nutrients that come into the bay that affect the persistence of those harmful algal blooms. So really, we're looking at capitalizing on opportunities before they're lost to develop in the future. And then the third one is because we've been having sort of these issues and really high-profile spills that occurred in 2021 and red tide events, the public is really motivated to get the bay back in a healthy state. Everyone who's lived here for quite some time knows that the bay is not doing good right now, so we need to do some really significant things to get it back on track. And that's what I'm going to try to focus on for the last half of my talk, kind of give everyone some hope. So as a program, we invest a lot of money in trying to protect those natural spaces or restore key habitats that either filter and polish the stormwater that's coming off the watershed and flows into the bay, or provides essential habitat to key fish species and other wildlife. So, there's some really great examples of really big and significant restoration projects that have been funded through a lot of different partnerships, and we've done some research. If you build it, they will come. The snook, the redfish, the trout, the things that we depend on to recreate in the bay will all come if we just preserve and protect these habitats. The second thing we could talk about, just collectively as a community, we could start thinking about how we can reduce our personal watershed footprint in the Bay Area. And one of those is, be cognizant of how you fertilize during the summer rainy season. There's now ordinance in all 3 counties bordering Tampa Bay that look at a blackout period for summer fertilization. That's when we have a lot of rains. That fertilizer just basically could run off, especially if it's placed on impervious surfaces, and just contribute to some of the algal blooms that we have in Tampa Bay. So just be cognizant of that, in the summer months, and look for Florida-friendly landscaping practices in your own homes. That will further reduce the amount of nutrients that are coming off your personal watershed footprint in the region. If you go on to the next slide, the other big initiative that has come up as of late, and this has been a result of a lot of significant rainfall that we had that contributed to sanitary sewer overflows. A lot of our wastewater treatment plants got overwhelmed, and a lot of that was due to aging what's called private sewer laterals. That's basically the pipe from your home that goes to the public sewer systems. And a lot of our older homes have some of the failing pipes, and that allows water to infiltrate and basically overwhelm our wastewater treatment plants here in the region. So we're encouraging this pipe up campaign. If you suspect you have a problem, please get an inspection, and if there is a problem, look for ways to repair or replace it. We're also trying to promote that Pinellas County actually has a rebate program right now to help offset some of the costs of repairing and replacing those private sewer laterals. So if you go to that website, tbep.org/pipeup, that'll take you to some more links to get more information on those rebate programs if you suspect a problem at your home. And then as a program, we do also offer a lot of different grant programs to further catalyze actions. We have a larger Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund. This is a public-private partnership that directs resources to large, significant restoration projects. One of those examples is we helped fund a living shoreline project similar to what Paige talked about in the city of Tampa, near Ignacio Haya Park in the city of Tampa. Safety Harbor also did a fairly significant waterfront restoration and living shoreline project, basically restored a lot of key salt marsh habitat, that picture on the right. Also at the Hope Spot Festival, I know we had some opportunities for homeowners that live on the bay that have docks in their backyard to establish vertical oyster gardens or collectively VOGs. We have some tutorials on how you could do that underneath your docks, and that further enhances oyster habitats in your backyard to help filter and also create habitat using oyster strings, basically. And if you go on to the next slide, and us as a program, we're trying to again establish some partnerships with more innovative partnerships with non-traditional players within the region. So the graphic on the right is basically the Rocky Point Golf Course, and we're working with the golf course to see if there's ways that they could change their landscaping practices and allow tide to start flood some of those areas and allow salt marshes or other mangrove habitats to start to develop on the golf course, because they're very vulnerable along the coast. And as we mentioned, there's these limited opportunities. Our watershed is fairly developed. That picture in the middle is basically the red areas is everywhere there's urban suburban development. So there's limited opportunities to do this restoration, and we have to look for these more innovative partnerships, like with golf courses or other entities that have land bordering the bay. And if you go to the next slide. And then one of the easiest things you could do, if you don't know about it, we have a specialty license plate. We affectionately call it the tarpon tag. It's funded, I think, close to now $2 million worth of projects going back to its inception. These numbers are just for the past 3 years. It's a simple purchase. Those resources come back to our program, and then we put it out to the community in the form of what's called our Bay Mini Grant program. It's helped fund the Blue Green Connection in the past, as well as other projects in the region. So please look for that. We usually advertise that towards the end of the summer, and then make a decision around September, from September and November each year for those projects. So just to cap off things, we are not ideally where we want to be in terms of where the bay's condition is, particularly with seagrasses, but we have great success in the past. We have a great legacy of working together and funding projects that have a benefit of the bay. So I know we should do it again. It's just going to take some more innovative thinking of how we could actually pursue projects in the limited amount of space that we have. And it's going to take us all working together collectively on actions that will reduce the amount of nutrients coming from watershed, because that is basically the number one pollutant that we're dealing with in this region. And it's only going to get a little more challenging as we get more people moving into the region. All those people are going to be flushing toilets. That water is going to have to go in somewhere, and ultimately we have to think about that moving forward if we want to sustain the key habitats that are important to the bay's fish and wildlife. So with that, I appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully that wasn't too much of a bummer, but trying to give some hope at the end.